LeBron James finds a forgotten letter his mother wrote during their hardest year and breaks down reading it. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. LeBron James stepped out of his Escalade and looked up at the house. It had been 24 years, but the old place hadn't changed much, only worse for the wear. The paint was almost gone. One of the upstairs windows was boarded up. The front door leaned off its hinges, like it barely had the strength to stand guard anymore. He stood still for a long moment, hands deep in his pockets, the autumn wind biting at his jacket. Part of him didn't want to go inside. Part of him was still that scared kid who used to press his ear against the door, praying his mom made it home safe. But he forced himself forward. The steps creaked and groaned as he climbed them, the old wood bending under his weight. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old wood. Sunlight slipped through cracks in the boarded windows, striping the floor with pale gold. Everywhere he looked, he saw ghosts. There was the spot where he used to shoot crumpled paper balls into a trash can, dreaming he was Michael Jordan. There was the corner where Gloria had sat crying once, when the electricity had been cut off. He swallowed hard and kept walking. He didn't really know why he came back today. The house had been scheduled for demolition. He'd quietly bought it to stop that from happening. Maybe he thought if he saved it, he could save a piece of himself too. He wasn't sure. The living room was a wreck. The couch was gone, but the indentations on the carpet still marked where it had been. A broken lamp lay in a pile near the wall. His old room upstairs was worse, half the ceiling had caved in, water-damaged painting ugly stains across the floorboards. He turned to leave, but something caught his eye. A loose floorboard near the closet. Half pulled up, like someone had started to hide something and never finished. LeBron knelt down and pried it up completely. Beneath it was an old shoebox, battered and water-stained but still holding together. His heart started pounding. He pulled it out carefully and sat down against the wall. Inside were scraps of his old life, fragments he hadn't realized still existed. His fourth-grade report card. A Polaroid of him holding a tiny basketball. A faded clipping from the local newspaper, Youth Basketball Star Lights Up League. His hands shook as he sifted through them. At the bottom of the box was an envelope. Yellowed with age, sealed tight. In his mother's neat, careful handwriting, it said, "For LeBron. Someday." He just stared at it for a minute, the room spinning slowly around him. The walls seemed to close in. Memories flooded in, cold nights with no heat, dinners of canned beans and prayers, Gloria working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. He remembered the way she used to sit at the kitchen table late at night, writing things down, whispering to herself. Hands trembling slightly, he ran his thumb along the edge of the envelope. He wasn't ready. Not yet. He set it gently beside him and leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. The house groaned around him, the wind slipping through cracks, whispering old secrets. He thought about the years that had passed since he lived here. The titles. The fame. The expectations that had nearly crushed him more than once. He thought about how many times he'd heard people say, LeBron James is lucky. He had all the talent in the world. They didn't know. They didn't know what it took to survive in this house. They didn't know about the nights he slept with his shoes on because Gloria warned him they might have to run if trouble showed up. They didn't know about the teachers who looked at him like another lost cause, or the nights he stayed awake listening to his stomach growl because there was no food. Talent got him noticed. Hunger made him unstoppable. He opened his eyes and picked up the envelope again. It felt heavier than it should have. He could almost hear Gloria's voice, low and tired but fierce, telling him to keep going, telling him he was meant for more. A creak behind him made him flinch. Just the house settling. He chuckled dryly, wiped at his eyes without realizing it. The envelope was still sealed, the glue holding fast after all these years. He slipped his finger under the flap and carefully tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded into thirds. He didn't unfold it yet. He just held it, feeling the weight of what was about to come. This wasn't just a letter. It was a piece of the past he'd fought so hard to escape but never really outrun. It was a conversation with the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. It was a chance to hear her voice again, just once more, maybe saying the things she never could when life was swallowing them whole. His phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking the moment. Probably his assistant, reminding him of some appearance, some endorsement, some meeting. The world pulling at him as always. He ignored it. The letter was more important. More important than anything else. He took a deep breath and unfolded the paper. The first line alone stopped him cold. His vision blurred as he stared at it. My dear LeBron, if you're reading this, it means you made it. The house faded away. The wind outside faded away. Everything faded away except for that sentence and the voice he could hear so clearly in his head. He pressed the letter against his chest and closed his eyes again. For a moment, he was just a boy again, sitting cross-legged on the floor of a crumbling house, holding the only thing that had ever mattered. Tomorrow, he would read the rest. Tonight, he just needed to remember. And let himself feel it. LeBron didn't sleep that night. He stayed in a cheap hotel on the outskirts of town, the letter resting on the nightstand beside him like it was alive. Every time he closed his eyes, he pictured Gloria's face, young, tired, but stubbornly proud. He could hear her laugh. He could see her fixing his collar before a middle school game, telling him to hold his head high no matter what. Morning light crept through the thin curtains. His body ached from tossing and turning. He picked up the letter again, unfolded it slowly, and started to read. My dear LeBron, if you're reading this, it means you made it. You made it to a place where you can look back, not just forward. He swallowed hard, the words blurring slightly. He kept going. I'm sorry if I couldn't tell you all the things I wanted to when you were young. I was scared. Scared all the time. Scared of failing you. Scared you would hate me for all the things we didn't have. I thought if I just worked harder, if I just kept moving, you wouldn't notice. He paused. He had noticed. Every missed birthday. Every Christmas morning with just one small gift. He had noticed everything, but he had never blamed her. Never once. You were my reason for everything. Every job, every sacrifice, every night I cried in the dark and got up the next morning like nothing happened, it was always for you. A tear slipped down his cheek before he could stop it. He wiped it away angrily, but another followed. And another. I wanted to give you the world, but all I had was a basketball and prayers. So I prayed you would be strong. Stronger than me. LeBron laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Stronger than her? No one was stronger than Gloria James. No one. The letter continued. Someday, when you are standing tall and the world knows your name, I hope you don't forget this little house. These hard years. They are not shameful. They are sacred. They are the roots of everything you will become. He set the letter down, hands trembling. His chest hurt. His mind swirled with images, his mom carrying laundry baskets twice her size, arguing with landlords, chasing him down for homework. She had built him out of nothing but grit and hope. The knock on the door startled him. He wiped his face, cleared his throat, and opened it. It was Maverick Carter, his lifelong friend, looking concerned. Bron, you good? LeBron nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah. Just needed to handle something. Maverick glanced past him, saw the letter on the nightstand, but didn't push. Got a call. Some foundation people want to meet downtown. You don't have to, though. LeBron hesitated. The old him, the teenager fighting for every inch, would have gone to that meeting without a second thought. But today felt different. He wasn't just LeBron James the brand. He was LeBron James the son. I'll meet them later, he said. Got something I need to finish first. Maverick clapped him on the shoulder, gave him a small nod, and left without another word. LeBron picked up the letter again. I know it won't be easy. Success is heavy. People will try to pull you down, use you, even love you for the wrong reasons. I can't protect you from that. She had been right. The betrayals, the fake friends, the endless scrutiny, she had seen it coming long before he had. But I hope you remember, you were loved before the world ever saw your talent. Loved for nothing more than being you. The words crushed him. In the glitz and roar of arenas, and the millions of screaming fans, he had sometimes lost sight of that simple truth. He turned the letter over. One more paragraph, written Messier, like she had been crying when she wrote it. If you ever feel lost, if the noise gets too loud, come home. Not to this house. To the memory. To me. You will always be my boy. He sat there for a long time after he finished, the letter limp in his hands. He wasn't sure when he started sobbing, but once it began, he couldn't stop. All the pressure, all the pride, all the pretending to be invincible, it shattered in one brutal wave. He cried for the scared kid he had been. For the exhausted woman who had fought for him with everything she had. For the man who sometimes still didn't feel like he was enough, no matter how many rings he won. When the tears finally stopped, he felt different. Lighter. Like something he'd been carrying around forever had finally been put down. He folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the envelope, and tucked it inside his jacket. There was something he needed to do. He checked out of the hotel, ignoring the curious stares from the staff. He drove back to the old house, parked out front. This time, he wasn't afraid to go inside. In the living room, he dropped down to his knees and pressed his palm against the floorboards. He whispered a quiet prayer, not asking for anything, just thanking her. Thanking God for giving him the kind of mother who loved him enough to break for him, to bleed for him, to believe for him. He stood up and looked around one last time. The house was a wreck, sure, but he didn't see the broken walls or the peeling paint anymore. He saw a fortress. Built on faith. As he left, he locked the door behind him. It didn't matter that the handle barely worked. It was symbolic. He was closing a chapter, but he wasn't forgetting it. He called Maverick. Tell those Foundation people I'll meet them, he said. You sure? Maverick asked. Yeah, LeBron said, starting the car. But I'm bringing someone with me. He drove straight to his mother's new house, the big, beautiful one he had bought her years ago. Gloria was outside tending her roses, wearing one of her old Cavs t-shirts and a wide-brimmed hat. When she saw him, she smiled like she always did, proud, knowing, unbreakable. He didn't say anything. Just walked up to her, pulled her into a hug, and held on. For a long time. She didn't ask why. She just held him back, her hand rubbing slow circles on his back the way she used to when he was small. When they finally let go, he took the letter from his jacket and handed it to her. I found this, he said, voice rough. Her eyes widened. She took it carefully, like it might disintegrate in her hands. I forgot all about this, she whispered. I didn't, LeBron said. Not anymore. They stood there together, in the sun, surrounded by blooming roses and a future built on the hardest, bravest parts of their past. And for the first time in a long time, LeBron James wasn't carrying the weight alone. LeBron sat quietly in the passenger seat while Maverick drove through downtown Akron. The city had changed over the years, shinier in places, rougher in others, but the bones were the same. He watched the sidewalks, the old storefronts, the clusters of kids hanging around corners. He remembered being one of them. Hungry. Dreaming. Fighting to believe he could escape. The letter still pressed against his heart like armor under his jacket. Maverick glanced at him, sensing the change. You sure about this, Bron? I'm sure, LeBron said without hesitation. The meeting wasn't supposed to be anything special. Just some donors, some city officials, small talk about expanding the I Promise school. But for LeBron, today wasn't about small talk anymore. It wasn't about names on plaques or ribbon cuttings. It was about doing something real. Something that would matter long after he was gone. They pulled into the community center where the meeting was set. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few scattered cars. As they got out, LeBron could feel the shift in the air. This wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. Inside, a few officials and local leaders waited. Smiles, handshakes, polite greetings. LeBron went through the motions, his mind somewhere else. They ushered him to a table where folders were laid out neatly, proposals, budgets, expansion plans. One of the men, a polished executive type, started speaking, laying out the future like it was a done deal. New buildings. New partnerships. New brand opportunities. LeBron let him finish before he stood up. I read all this, he said, tapping the folder lightly. It's good. But it's not enough. The room fell silent. Eyes turned to him, confused. He set the folder down. Looked around at them, really looked. Suits. Ties. Comfortable people talking about helping kids they'd never meet. When I was a kid, LeBron said, I didn't need a shiny building. I needed someone to believe I wasn't just another lost cause. He took a breath, feeling the weight of what he was about to say. I'm not just expanding the school. I'm expanding the mission. Housing. Food security. Mental health services. Job training for parents. I want the full wraparound. Not in 5 years. Now. The executives shifted uncomfortably. One of them cleared his throat. LeBron, that's a major undertaking. The cost. I'll cover the cost, LeBron said, cutting him off. I'm not asking for permission. Shock rippled across the room. Someone dropped a pen. Maverick just smiled, proud. You don't understand, LeBron continued, voice steady. This isn't about publicity. It's about kids like me. It's about moms like mine who worked 3 jobs and still had to choose between rent and dinner. One of the local officials, a woman with kind eyes, leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? LeBron didn't hesitate. A promise village. Right here. Safe housing for families. Counseling centers. Career workshops. Nutrition programs. The school will be the heart, but the village will be the life around it. The room buzzed with whispers. Numbers floated through the air. Logistics. Zoning. Permits. Doubts. LeBron tuned it out. He wasn't here to be practical. He was here to be possible. He thought of Gloria writing that letter in a freezing kitchen, praying for a future she couldn't even see. He thought about the nights he wanted to quit, the days he wanted to disappear. He thought about how close he had come to slipping through the cracks like so many others. He wasn't going to let another kid fall because no one showed up for them. When the meeting ended, most of the officials were cautious, some skeptical. A few genuinely excited. LeBron didn't need them all. He just needed enough to get started. As they walked back to the car, Maverick shook his head, laughing low under his breath. You realize you just scared half those guys out of their suits, right? Good, LeBron said. They drove in silence for a while, the city passing by in a blur. You gonna tell the public? Maverick asked. LeBron nodded. Tonight. No big press conference. Just me. The truth. Maverick whistled. Bold. LeBron smiled grimly. No other way. That evening, LeBron sat in a small studio they set up in a local rec center. No flashy lighting. No prepared statements. Just a chair, a camera, and the letter tucked in his pocket. The crew gave him the countdown. He nodded. The light blinked on. He looked straight into the lens. I'm LeBron James, he began. You know my story. But you don't know all of it. He talked about the house. The hunger. The fear. He didn't dress it up or soften it. He laid it bare. He talked about Gloria, about the sacrifices no camera ever captured. He pulled out the letter and read pieces of it aloud, his voice cracking on certain lines. I was loved before the world ever saw my talent. He set the letter down carefully. And now, he said, it's my turn to love back. He announced the Promised Village. Explained what it meant. How it would work. Who it would help. No slogans. No brands. Just a promise. When the camera cut off, the room was dead silent. The producer wiped his eyes discreetly. The sound tech gave him a thumbs up without speaking. LeBron stood, stretched his back, and smiled faintly. It wasn't about how many people watched tonight. It was about who did. Maybe some kid out there who felt invisible. Maybe some mother who thought she'd failed. He walked outside into the night air. His phone buzzed relentlessly now, texts, calls, alerts, but he didn't check it. He didn't need the world's reaction to know he had done the right thing. Maverick came up beside him, holding out a takeout bag. Figured you could use some food, he said. LeBron grinned, the weight on his chest a little lighter. You know me too well. As they sat on the curb, sharing greasy burgers like kids again, LeBron looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, he thought, Gloria was smiling. He didn't say it out loud. He didn't have to. He just knew. 2 days later, the news exploded. LeBron's announcement spread faster than anyone expected. Social media lit up. Sports networks ran it on a loop. Talk shows debated it. Half the headlines praised him as a hero. The other half called him reckless. That was fine. He was used to noise. What he wasn't ready for was the letter. Not his mother's letter, the one he had already read, sealed back into his heart. This was a different letter. A legal one. Delivered by courier to the front door of the community center he was renovating for the Promised Village headquarters. Maverick burst into his temporary office, waving the thick envelope like it was on fire. You need to see this. LeBron took it and skimmed the first page. His stomach dropped. A property developer, one of the biggest in the city, was filing an injunction. They claimed rights to the land the Promised Village was supposed to occupy. Claimed prior ownership. Claimed contractual misunderstandings. In simple terms, they wanted to stop him cold. If they won, everything would be tied up in court for years. The homes, the shelters, the programs, it would all be frozen. Just words on a piece of paper. Dreams on hold. LeBron set the letter down carefully, hand steady even though his chest was burning. Maverick paced the room. This is a hit job. They saw your announcement, smelled opportunity. You're too big, Bron. They think you'll either settle or back off. LeBron said nothing for a long time. He stared out the window, watching a couple of kids ride beat-up bikes down the street. I'm not backing off, he said finally. Maverick stopped pacing. Good. Then we fight. It wasn't just about pride. It wasn't even about him. It was about the promise he had made, to the scared kid he used to be, to the mothers and fathers counting on him, to Gloria. They spent the next 48 hours locked in meetings. Lawyers, city officials, activists. The developer's legal team was brutal, throwing every obstacle they could. Zoning technicalities. Past lien disputes. They even tried to question the legitimacy of LeBron's foundation. At one point, a smug attorney across the table leaned back and said, "You're a basketball player, Mr. James. Maybe stick to what you know." LeBron leaned forward slowly. His voice didn't rise, but it sliced through the room. I know what it's like to grow up with nothing because people like you think they own everything. The attorney flushed, but didn't respond. They knew what they were doing. Delay. Exhaust. Frustrate. LeBron knew it too. But he was used to full court pressure. The local news caught wind of the legal battle. Some anchors spun it into a scandal. Accused LeBron of rushing into deals without understanding complex civic matters. Others rallied behind him, interviewing families desperate for the support the Promised Village promised to bring. In the middle of it all, Gloria called him. "You all right, baby?" she asked. He closed his eyes, leaning back in his chair. Trying to be. You don't have to do this alone, you know, she said. You've got people. You've got me. I know, he said quietly. I made a promise. You made the right one, she said. Don't let the snakes make you forget that. Hearing her voice was like breathing again. But the pressure kept building. Sponsors started to call. Partners. They wanted to reassess timelines. Some hinted at backing out. Quietly. Politely. Corporate speak for your liability now. Maverick handled most of it, shielding him, but he could feel the walls closing in. One night, he sat alone on the empty lot where the first Promise Village homes were supposed to be built. He sat on the hood of his truck, hoodie pulled up, staring at the stars again. He pulled the original letter from Gloria out of his jacket. He hadn't meant to bring it, but somehow he always did now. He read the last paragraph again. If you ever feel lost, come home. He realized then, home wasn't just a building. It was everything he was fighting for. It was every kid who needed a chance. Every parent who needed hope. He wasn't lost. They were just trying to make him think he was. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting with his foundation team, his lawyers, and a handful of city leaders he trusted. He didn't sit behind the big desk at the front of the conference room. He stood. No notes. No speeches. This is what we're going to do, he said. The plan wasn't to fight the developer head-on, at least not the way they expected. LeBron's team would double down on community support. Launch a campaign showing exactly what the Promise Village would mean. Real faces. Real stories. They would turn the legal battle into a moral one. Force the city, the public, and even the courts to see what was really at stake. If they want to fight, LeBron said, they're going to have to fight all of us. Maverick grinned. Now you're talking. Within hours, the campaign was everywhere. Videos of local families explaining what safe housing would mean to them. Testimonials from teachers, doctors, even police officers. Clips of LeBron himself walking the streets, not as a celebrity, but as a son of Akron. The pressure started to flip. City council members began receiving thousands of emails. News stations ran specials on childhood poverty rates. National figures tweeted support. The developer's name became poison overnight. By the end of the week, they quietly offered a settlement, an obscene payout if LeBron would walk away from the land. He refused. This isn't about money, he told Maverick. The next step was clear. Go to court. All in. As he prepared for the hearing, LeBron tucked Gloria's letter into his jacket one more time. His armor. He wasn't fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for the promise. For the village. For every kid like him who just needed someone to believe. The courtroom smelled like old paper and stale coffee. LeBron sat at the long table next to his attorney, a modest, no-nonsense woman named Harris who had fought her way up from public defense work. Across the aisle, the developer's team sat stiff and smug, armed with three-piece suits and binders thick enough to build walls. The judge entered, and everyone rose. LeBron rose too, heart steady. His palms weren't sweating. His mind wasn't racing. For the first time in weeks, he felt completely clear. The hearing wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about control. The developer's lawyers argued first, filling the air with legal jargon, zoning codes, contract terms. They painted LeBron as reckless. A good-hearted but naive celebrity, stepping into a world he didn't understand. When they finished, Harris stood. She didn't grandstand. She didn't shout. She spoke plainly, but every word hit like a hammer. Your Honor, she said, this isn't about technicalities. It's about a community trying to lift itself up. And the right of a man to use his own resources, his own platform, to give back to the place that raised him. Then she did something bold. She called LeBron to the stand. Maverick gave him a look from the gallery, half worry, half encouragement. LeBron nodded once and stood. As he swore in, a ripple went through the room. Phones clicked. Reporters scribbled. Eyes locked on him. He sat, hands resting calmly on the table. Harris approached. Mr. James, why did you start this project? Because I remember what it feels like to need help and have no one there, he said. Because I promised I wouldn't forget where I came from. She nodded. Were you aware of the zoning complexities? I trusted my team to handle the paperwork, he admitted. My focus was on the people. And what does this project mean to you personally? He thought about the letter in his jacket, the nights without food, the fear he still carried deep in his bones. It means everything, he said simply. The developer's attorney stood, ready to pounce. You've already achieved unimaginable wealth and fame, he said. Why pursue this project when it offers no personal benefit? LeBron smiled faintly. Because some things are bigger than money. Because if all I do with my success is make myself richer, then I've failed the people who believed in me when I had nothing. The attorney pressed harder. Isn't it true, Mr. James, that this project also increases your brand visibility? That it helps your image? LeBron didn't flinch. Maybe. I don't care. If helping kids paints me in a good light, so be it. The judge cut in, silencing the courtroom. I've heard enough, she said. Everyone froze. The judge shuffled her papers, then looked at LeBron directly. Mr. James, this court recognizes your commitment to the Akron community. The developer's claim is hereby dismissed. You are free to proceed with the Promise Village project, effective immediately. A beat of silence. Then the room erupted. Reporters scrambled. The gallery broke into cheers. Maverick punched the air, laughing out loud. LeBron sat still for a moment, letting it sink in. He had won. Not for the headlines. Not for his legacy. For the promise. For the boy he used to be. For every mother like Gloria. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Local families, kids holding handmade signs, teachers waving homemade banners. As LeBron stepped out of the courthouse, they roared for him. But he didn't raise his hands in triumph. He didn't act like a king returning from battle. He walked straight into the crowd, hugging a little boy who threw himself into his arms. A woman with tired eyes and a proud smile handed him a simple bouquet of sunflowers. For my daughter, she said. She's gonna have a home now. LeBron swallowed hard, nodded. Thank you. That night, he went back to the lot where the Promised Village would rise. No speeches. No cameras. He stood there under the stars, pulling Gloria's letter from his jacket one last time. He didn't read it again. He didn't need to. He whispered into the wind, voice raw but certain. I kept my promise, Ma. Then he pulled a shovel from the back of his truck. Walked to the center of the lot. And dug the first hole himself, hands blistering under the handle, sweat pouring down his face. He planted a small oak tree right there, a symbol of everything still to come. Roots. Faith. Hope. A few months later, the first families moved into the Promised Village. The school expanded. Parents started their first college classes. Local businesses offered jobs to residents. The ripple effect spread, small at first, then stronger. LeBron visited often, never as a guest of honor. Just as a neighbor. A witness. He watched kids race down safe sidewalks, mothers laughing freely, fathers grilling burgers in front of houses with fresh paint and flower beds. He didn't need his name on anything. Their joy was enough. One afternoon, Gloria visited the village with him. She wore her Sunday best and a giant grin. They walked side by side through the new streets, past kids playing pickup basketball on shiny new courts. Gloria looked up at him, pride shining in her eyes. You made it, she said. LeBron shook his head. We made it. As the sun dipped low behind the rooftops, they sat together on a bench. No cameras. No speeches. Just a mother and her son, breathing in the life they had built from broken pieces. The house they had once called home was long gone, but the spirit of it, the fight, the faith, the love, lived on in every brick, every blade of grass, every beating heart in that village. LeBron leaned back, closed his eyes, and smiled. Finally, he was home. And he knew, deep down, he had kept the most important promise of all.